Good morning, sports fans, bettors, and cappers, and welcome to the Daily Competitive Hedge podcast. I'm your host of the show, Kenneth, and this show is all about sports and the world of betting. We talk about results from the weekend that was and wagers before diving into today's betting plays. Now, our episode today is brought to you by our sponsor, Bet99. Bet99 is a Canadian sportsbook and casino that offers in-play betting, player props, and many more great products. There are a variety of sports to bet on the website. They do have MLB there. We're not betting MLB right now the way that went in August. So they've also got CFL, college football, and EPL, and so much more. Bet99 works smoothly on both desktop and mobile, and their mobile app can be downloaded from the homepage of their website. Depositing and withdrawing funds is hassle-free with a number of well-known methods available to use, so you know your money is safe and secure. So go to bet99.com to make an account. Use promo code SHOOTERS to get started. And please gamble responsibly. You must be 19 plus years of age. So let's talk about the weekend that was of betting. The title of the episode is basically we went 500 all weekend because that's how it was. We just couldn't get up, couldn't fall behind by too much. But as far as the EPL went, we were 4-4 on the weekend. The winners that we had Bournemouth and Nottingham, both teams to score. That one finished 3-2. We had the same in Tottenham and Fulham. They finished 2-1. And then we had Brighton and Leicester, both teams to score 5-2 there. And then the Man United money line at plus 166 was our big play of the weekend. Was our biggest homer play too, let's be honest. We're a Manchester United fan here at the show. So shout out to them for knocking off Arsenal 3-1. Losers wise, we had Everton and Liverpool, both teams to score. None of them scored. It finished 0-0. Leeds double chance, they lost 5-2. West Ham double chance, they lost to Chelsea on a BS VR call in that game, I'll say it. And then Manchester City, first half money line, it was 0-0 and actually finished 1-1 there. Then college football-wise, we were 4-4 for the weekend. Some of our winners, we had Michigan State minus 21 on Friday. And then we had Bama minus 41 versus Utah State. They blew them out 55-0. We had the Notre Dame and OSU under 59. That one was an easy cash there. And then Houston team total, that one was a sweat. Triple overtime is what it took to get Houston past the 33.5. So we cashed there. Some of our losing plays, I don't know why we had faith in Temple, but plus 10.5, Temple got blown out. Colorado TCU, the over missed there. Unfortunately, a very low scoring first half set us behind the 8 ball. Texas A&M, our football team, let us down minus 32. They only won 31-0. And then Ole Miss minus 21. They won 28-10. Now, when we're talking about other weekend results from other sports, we had yesterday some WNBA playoffs. The game of the year had to be that Vegas Aces versus Seattle Storm game. 110-98 was the final there. The Aces won in overtime. Aja Wilson, 34 points, 11 rebounds. She's my MVP, and I think a lot of Off the Ball Network's life MVPs as well. Chelsea Gray also had 29 points as well. And then Brianna Stewart, she had 20, 15, and 6. And Sue Bird had 17 and 8, and she had a clutch 3 that thought they won the game, but Vegas was able to respond. And then Chicago, they went up 2-1 against UConn. 76-72 was the final there. Candace Parker with a 16 and 11 double-double. CFL wise, we had Ottawa beat Montreal 38-24. We're on Montreal money line. Great call there, Ken. Arbuckle, 313 yards and a TD was what did it for Ottawa. Then Saskatchewan, they lost 20-18 yesterday versus Winnipeg. Only 4 total points in the second half. I almost got tickets to the Labor Day game. Glad I missed it. Glad I stayed home because I don't think I would have been able to have the beers flowing enough in order to want to stick around for that second half. Winnipeg, they moved to 11-1 on the season. They're the first team to make the playoffs. And then Saskatchewan, they sit at 6-6. Then we had a great live golf weekend at Dustin Johnson. He picked up his first live golf event win. He shot a 65 in the final round there. Also a three-man playoff there as Joaquin Niemann and Anirban Lahiri made the playoff there. DJ makes eagle on the first playoff hole to win it. But when you look at this leaderboard, how could you not think that this event was great? You had Lee Westwood shot 62. You had Cameron Smith shoot 63, both missing the playoff by one. And then you look at the other guys on the leaderboard, whether it's Jason Kokrak or Abraham Answer, Sergio Garcia. This is completely comparable to a PGA Tour leaderboard. And it may not be the Tour Championship that we saw last weekend, but nonetheless, it was a great event. The four aces won the team event as well. Pat Perez continues to pick up those checks, riding DJ and Patrick Reed's coattails. Now, college football-wise, Ohio State, as we said, they knocked off Notre Dame 21-10. Our guest in a few minutes here probably is a little bit excited about that result. Then we have number 3, Georgia. They obliterated Oregon, number 11, Oregon, 49-3. The SEC really reigned true on that game. Utah, they got upset by Florida, 29-26. You had Arkansas, number 19 Arkansas beat number 23 Cincy, 31-24. Houston, that we mentioned earlier, they survived triple OT against UTSA. Michigan obliterated Colorado State. Ole Miss, they obliterated Troy. And then USC hung 66 points on Rice there. So good weekend of sports. Really looking forward to this week as well. Later on today, going to be doing a live show with good friend Walker Bailey to talk EPL and Champions League starting up as well. And I'm very excited that we are finally getting away from all the MLB that we continue to lose on in the month of August. But as far as MLB games go today, because we are going to get into today's betting slate, there's not a lot of games here that I really love the values on. I would like the Red Sox today with Waka on the mound. They are minus 105 today against the Rays on the road. So that would be one that I would have circled. Isn't a part of our official betting card, but it is definitely an early lean for us. I do like the Astros money line today. It is a little bit juiced at minus 180. So bet that one with a grain of salt. Not a lot of value there, but it is one that you could throw in with a parlay perhaps. I do like the Guardians money line today, minus 135. They're taking on Kansas City with Tristan McKenzie on the mound. And then it always feels safe to bet Dodgers run line. And today they're taking on the Giants, and they are even money there. So that would be the official baseball plays that we're leaning, but not necessarily betting on. Now, we have a couple CFL games here today. In about an hour's time, we do have Toronto and Hamilton kicking off. Toronto, they're 5-5. They're taking on Hamilton, who are 3-8 heading into this game. This one's essentially a pick 'em. You got Toronto minus 109 and Hamilton's minus 113. My early lean on this game would be to take the over. Definitely not going to take either side of the money line here. We keep getting burned on these very bad Eastern Conference teams, and so we're just going to stay away from the East today. We do have Edmonton and Calgary. This will be an official play for us a little bit later on, but Calgary's coming in at 6-4. Edmonton's 3-8. The complete opposite here. It's not a pick 'em. Calgary's minus 13.5. I would lean the over 50 in this game, but that won't be our official play. That's just another early lean that we like overall. So let's get into the hedge plays that we do like for today that we are betting on. These are the official plays that we're going to have for the show. Starting in England with English Championship Soccer today, I'm rolling with Middlesborough and Sunderland, both teams to score at minus 125. Now, Middlesbrough sitting 22nd in the table, and you got Sunderland sitting in 8th. But if you go and look at the results for Middlesbrough, they've been very unfortunate to be sitting in this position. They should have got more points and more results here, and they are at home today at the Riverside Stadium. So I do like Middlesbrough to score here. The last time these two teams played was 4 years ago, and we had a 3-3 game on our hands. So these are teams that I think are going to open it up. It's going to be very up and down, as you see a lot of the time in English Championship Soccer. And so despite Middlesbrough having some rough recent form, they've only been held scoreless in one of their last 7 games. And then you got Sunderland on the other side. They average over a goal and a half per game. So I feel very good about this one. Think we could even see an early first half cash here at minus 125. Then we got Clemson versus Georgia Tech. I'm going under 52 at minus 125 today. I just want to buy the point here because I'm concerned with the way that Vegas looks at this game. that we could be looking at a 38-14 scenario. And so I want to make sure that I get the push there just in case. But Clemson, they did not have a great offense last year. They averaged just over 26 points per game. We don't know how it's going to look yet. We know that there's a potential QB controversy there. You got DJ, but then also five-star Cade Klubnik right behind him. And so I don't think Dabo would hesitate to make a change here. I'm actually kind of hoping that DJ struggles early on because that would be huge for this underplay. And then on the Georgia Tech side of things, Jeff Sims, he has an interception issue. And so I do think the Clemson defense, they're going to be able to hold them to limited points here. 14 would be the highest that I see them getting in this game. So everything that I'm reading says Georgia Tech offense will struggle, and week one, they're not sure about Clemson. That means for me, I'm taking the under 52. Now, Calgary minus 13 is where we're going today versus Edmonton at minus 115 on the CFL side of things. And this is us just buying that half a point just to be safe. But I don't think we're going to need it today. Edmonton is really bad. They are a very bad football team. And Calgary, they're at home. They've got renewed faith in the quarterback position. They sat down Bo Levi Mitchell. They brought in Jake Mayer a few weeks ago. And since he's come in, Calgary has looked great. Now, Edmonton, they're 1-4 against the spread this year as well, against teams that are above 500. So anytime they play these elite teams in the CFL, like the Winnipegs, like the BCs, when you have Rourke in, then they seem to fade entirely. So Mayer's coming off a game where he threw for almost 300 yards and 3 TDs against Winnipeg, who has the best defense in the league. I think Mayer could go for 350 and 4 TDs today. And the Elks offense, they've just stunk overall. And so they also won't have Kenny Lawler today on the weapons front. So really do like that Calgary play at -1 or at minus 115 at minus 13. And then to cap it off, Real Valladolid money line versus Almeria in the La Liga of the Spanish Soccer League. Now, people are going to look at Valladolid sitting at 17th and think that they're a bad team. When you open up the season going against Valencia, Sevilla, and Barcelona, very tough start. And so I think this is a good bounce back spot for them at home. I do think as well, the fact that Almeria, they've played Real Madrid as well, doesn't mean that they've had an easy go at it either. But I do like them today. I think that Valladolid's going to get the result. And so if you like this one to be low scoring like I do, under 2.5 at minus 130 is an alternate way to go with it. But we're going to take the money line at plus 142. Go for the plus value. Go for the home run. And let's have a great day today of our betting plays. So with that, we're going to head over now and we're going to bring on our guest to the show. We're going to talk some NFL future bets. And just overall general predictions for the NFL season. We got it kicking off here on Thursday, so NFL is finally upon us. Now, as I said earlier, this guy's an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. He's also a Dallas Cowboys fan. Now, if I was playing Madden and I needed a running back or a wide receiver, I probably wouldn't draft this guy. He's on IR all the time. He's hurt all the time, so I wouldn't bring him in. But if I needed an assistant coach, like, this is a guy that I definitely bring onto my squad, and I feel very comfortable doing so. And he's been on the show multiple times, and he knows that I'm kidding with all of this. So let's welcome in Mo Murphy to the show. Mo, how you doing today on this holiday Monday?
Oh, I'm all good, bro. Hell of an intro. Glad to know that I wouldn't be a player, but I'd be a coach on your team. So, I have some type of value.
Yeah, like you kind of have, I can't even say CMC value because I haven't seen like a CMC season out of you as a player, but like the injury is the concern. If you're 100% healthy, then I probably have you as like a special teams guy, but I just can't do it. I hope you understand.
I'm walking IR, bro. It's okay.
So we're going to get into the show today. As I said, we're talking about some future bets. We're going to start in the AFC, talk some contenders, some NFC contenders, and then some year-end awards as well. So let's start in the AFC, Mo. I'm curious your thoughts on heading into the year. We love to throw out the term contender, and I usually like to temper my expectations and not have too many contenders because, especially in the AFC this year, you've got anywhere from 8 to 10 teams that could probably make the playoffs this year if things break their way. So who would be a couple of true contenders for you in the AFC this year?
Kansas City, for sure. I ride the Kansas City train every year. They went to the AFC Championship last year, was a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl again, 4 times in a row. because they lose Tyreek Hill, you give up on Kansas City as being a contender. Like, I'm just not buying into that. They got a great quarterback. They got a great coach. They're not lacking weapons. Yeah, nobody's Tyreek Hill, but you'll just have to score a bunch of different ways. I think you'll see a lot of games where Mahomes throws 4 touchdowns to 4 different receivers. But you can't forget they got probably the best tight end in the game as well. Travis Kelce knows how to get open. He's always going to be reliable. And when you have a tight end that great, you're always able to make plays. Like, if guys like Russell Wilson, like, they always rely on their tight end. So a guy like Patrick Mahomes, like, if all else fails, he'll always be able to get the ball to Travis Kelce. So I'm still rocking with Kansas City. I consider them a contender. Top 5 head coach, top 2, 3 quarterback. I mean, I think he's the best quarterback in the league, but you got top 5 head coach, top 2 or 3 quarterback, just to save the debate on who people think the best quarterback is. So yeah, I go Kansas City. I think the Chargers are a contender this year as well. I'm high on the Raiders, but they've had they made a lot of cuts, and it's tough. Like, I know it's tough when you make a lot of cuts and clean house, with the new regime, that the Raiders will be true contenders, but I'm going with the Chargers too. Bro, they're loaded on offense. They're loaded on defense. Like, it's going to take injuries for the Chargers not to be a good team. You got Justin Herbert, who I think could win the MVP. I think he'll be an MVP candidate for sure. He could win MVP. You got Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. Then you look at their defense. They added Khalil Mack. Now you have Khalil Mack and Bosa rushing the passer. You added J.C. Jackson. Derwin James just got the bag. He should be playing a full season this year. So I just look at that Chargers team, and they're loaded everywhere. Top 5 to 7 quarterback, however you want to look at it. We still have some questions about the coach. So he'll have a lot to answer this year. But I got to go the Chargers. And, man, it's so many good teams in the AFC. It's tough to just put.
I'm kind of shocked that you haven't named one yet. The Buffalo Bills.
No, yeah. I mean, Buffalo. Yeah, I mean, Buffalo.
Now, Vegas odds, the reason why is because Vegas has them as the favorites to win the AFC this year. So that's why I had it as like a glaring.
They're a contender. They are definitely a contender. My only question is, like, do you think Buffalo's overhyped going into this year? Like, there's some high expectation. Like, to win the AFC, you haven't played an AFC championship game. Like, they haven't gotten past that second round. Yes, they have Josh Allen, who he's the odds-on favorite to win MVP. Like, they think, he could arguably be the best quarterback in the NFL, but there's a lot of expectations. I mean, when you have a quarterback who's the favorite to win MVP, aren't they the Super Bowl favorite on top of that?
Yeah, they are.
They're the favorite to come out of the AFC. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl. Like, those are lofty expectations. Like, they're going to have a defensive player of the year candidate, I think, in Tre'Davious White, as long as he stays healthy. So they have like lofty expectations, and I almost wonder, like, yes, Josh Allen is great, but are they a little overhyped? Like, is that the expectation? I mean, it's basically Super Bowl or bust for Buffalo. So they're contenders for sure, but for a team that hasn't made an AFC championship game, they're Super Bowl or bust, essentially. Like, if they don't make it to the Super Bowl, the season isn't a success.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think the expectations are due, though. The fact that you've got Josh Allen, who's the odds-on MVP favorite. They don't really have a running game, but they've got good weapons. They have a good defense. I think they're one of the more complete teams, and I think everyone projecting Josh Allen to be MVP is a big reason why they're the MVP or like the Super Bowl favorites. Like, I think that people have too high of expectations on Kansas City this year. Like, I actually don't consider Kansas City a contender this year.
They've earned it. Like, you don't think Kansas City's earned the benefit of the doubt at least this year, though? Like,
but I don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt on years past if I'm looking at a roster that, to me, is a bottom 10 defense, if not worse. Like, could be bottom 5 defense in the league. Like, they're very bad defensively. And I know that it's just the loss of Hill because they went out and patched it well. I don't have concerns about the offense. I just think once you get into the AFC, and if you have to match up with the Chargers, who added Mack, and they added somebody else in the second. Yeah. Like, so you add defensive playmakers there. If you have to play Denver, that's a good defense in a tough environment. If you have to go to Denver, they have Russell Wilson now. Like, for me, the 4 contenders that I have in the AFC is I've got Buffalo because the expectations are there. How can you not have them as a contender? The Chargers, despite the fact that they haven't made the playoffs yet, that was the team where I'm like, man, me putting the Chargers as a contender, but Kansas City not, as you said, not giving them the benefit of the doubt is tough. But I just think if you match Kansas City up with the 4 teams I'm going to name, then I don't see a scenario where they beat them. Cincinnati is another one. How can you not have Cincinnati as a contender when they just went to the Super Bowl last year? Like,
you want to hear? I don't know if Cincinnati makes the playoffs.
They're making the playoffs this year.
Oh.
And I was in the same boat as you with Cincinnati about 6 weeks ago. And then just something to me was like, I think I'm just finding a reason to not pick Cincinnati. I think I'm finding a reason to not pick them. And I think that they kept the core together that they needed to in order to make a run. Joe Burrow, I think he's going to be an MVP contender. He's not going to win it, but he's going to be in the MVP conversation, kind of in that top 5 discussion. And then my 4th team was Denver, because I really do like this Denver team top to bottom. I think
I hate Denver right now.
I know you do. And so like, because to me, like the teams that I want to throw out the window, I'm not putting Baltimore there until, like, to me, Lamar right now is in that Dak discussion of like playoffs wise, like show me something more than what you've done. And they both won a playoff game, but until you get to, the next step, like, I just can't put you as a contender. They're also coming off a year where they missed the playoffs, and everyone has the Ravens winning the division. I think they'll win the division as well, but I'm just not ready to put them as contender status. We're not going to throw Indianapolis in there. Like, I like Matt Ryan, but I just don't see a scenario where Indianapolis goes on a run and knocks off all these great teams that we have with far superior quarterbacks. Like, Matt Ryan's a good quarterback.
Matt Ryan, I don't think they were a Matt Ryan away from being like they would Matt Ryan away from being a playoff team. But I don't think they were like a Matt Ryan away from,
if they were a Russell Wilson, then I would say, okay, I'll think about it, because the run game's there. He's got the weapons. They've got the defense. Like, they have everything in place.
They needed a top 5 to 7 quarterback. But like, I don't think they were like a Matt Ryan away from like, oh yeah, they're contenders. They got a good defense. I'm nervous with their weapons though. Like,
well, it's Pittman. It's basically Pittman.
And that's what kind of, like, for me.
But that's been Indy for a decade, because even prior to that, it was T.Y. It was just like T.Y. Hilton, and then we're supposed to be excited about Jack Doyle, and then there was the Eric Ebron era, and like,
and then like ever since they got rid of, like, the Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Edgerrin James, and Dallas Clark, like, offense with Peyton Manning, they've never really had weapons. And
that's why I can't put them as a contender, because I just think
it's tough for me to say Jonathan Taylor will carry them to AFC Championship. I mean, we've seen Derrick Henry do it, but Derrick Henry doing it was dominant fashion, and it was unexpected. Like, nobody thought that was going to happen. So I don't think you turn around and basically bet the success on a running back. Jonathan Taylor's great, arguably the best running back in the league. Definitely top 2 or 3, but it's tough for me in today's era to say a team will run themselves to an AFC Championship again. I don't see it.
Yeah. Especially not when you have these teams that can hang points on you as quickly as they
do. I mean, the quarterbacks in the AFC are crazy.
It's crazy good in the AFC. So those are my 4 contenders, and I am one of those people. I'm one of those suckers that's in on Buffalo this year. If I had to pick a team to come out of the AFC, that would be my pick. Shocker, I'm picking the favorite at plus 310.
That's a safe bet too.
But to me, when I'm betting these future bets, like, I would put a unit on Buffalo because the odds are like 3-1. But then I'm also going to go and look for, like, who's that other team that could go on a run, and look for the value play. And I'm not going to put a full unit on it. I'll put half unit on it maybe, and then go from there. So who would you have coming out of the AFC?
Coming out? God.
And to me, what's so hard about this conference in general is that I think it's going to be so matchup based that
one wrong matchup can ruin somebody's season.
Because you could have Kansas City misses, and then suddenly they get the Chargers as the 7, and you're like, oh damn, like, that's a tough one. But then in another game, you're going to get Indianapolis versus like the Ravens, and you're like, well, I don't consider either of these team contenders, but somebody is going to the AFC divisional round. And then they're going to be a game away from the AFC Championship. So I do think it will be matchup based. But if you had to pick a team that, like, you think, I mean, it really is, who do you think matches up well with the most teams in the conference?
Bro, I'm gonna be honest, bro. I sipped the Kool-Aid last year. I'm sipping it again. I'm going with Kansas City, bro. I just, and remember when I picked Kansas City last year? They went to the AFC Championship, so I wasn't that far off. But remember, like the first few weeks, it was looking real shaky. Everybody, you bought into Kansas City, and I was arguing that people were giving up on Patrick Mahomes, and maybe he's declining or he's plateaued at how good he's gonna be, and da da da. It was rough those first couple weeks, and then they turned around, and it's like as soon as Kansas City turned around and played like the team we knew they were, it's like all that stopped. Everybody was quiet at that point. Like, so I give them the benefit of the doubt. They're well coached. Yeah, there's questions on defense, but they can get in a shootout with anybody. Like, if it's like, okay, they can't stop nobody, who's really going to stop them either? Yes, they don't have Tyreek Hill. They got Valdez-Scantling, who could still take the top off of defense.
I'm not worried about the offense side of things. Like, this Kansas City team, to me, gives me Peyton Manning Colts that didn't go to the Super Bowl vibes.
Yeah,
like,
because
the defense is so bad.
But in today's world, offense, like, defense can carry you. But offense could carry you a pretty. I mean, look at Cincinnati. Like, their defense was good. It wasn't great. Yeah. I mean, look at the weapons. Like, they didn't even have a good offensive line. Like, the play of their playmakers and their quarterback, like, took them to the Super Bowl.
And that's why I still have them as a contender. Because when you have Chase, like, Higgins, we forget, is still super young. Like, he could take another step, and they still have
Boyd. He's only a year older than Chase.
Right? Like, and then you've got Mixon. As long as Mixon stays healthy, I think that's what could make or break them, because I think what Mixon gives them is it keeps defenses honest, and that's why you're able to see Jamar get open as often as he does.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's a tough matchup because, I mean, and Joe Burrow said it in an interview, if you want to play man-to-man, go ahead. Good luck. Like, because we have too many weapons, but I just get nervous about those teams that made a miraculous run that wasn't expected, and then, like, now we put expectations on a team. Yeah, like, now we put these lofty expectations. They made it to the Super Bowl, nothing less than an AFC Championship, right? But that division is good. Like, Pittsburgh's defense is going to be crazy. I think the Ravens' defense is disgusting right now. I mean, they are loaded on defense. I expect Lamar to be healthy this year. J.K. Dobbins will come back, so they'll do a lot of RPO. I think the Ravens will win that division. Cleveland's defense is nasty. I know they're rocking with Jacoby Brissett for those first 11 games, but depending on where they're at after those 11 games and how Deshaun Watson, how long it takes him to get going, Cleveland could be that team that just makes the playoffs and then goes on a run because they do have a very good quarterback, but they struggled a little bit. And then, so I'm just looking at the AFC North. Like, we talk about the West and it's all the quarterbacks and everything, where we look at the AFC North and, like, do we love Lamar? No, necessarily. I mean, I like Lamar, but I'm saying, is he like it's not the loaded quarterback division, but they have talent like everywhere else. Like, all those defenses are disgusting. You know, it's just, we question AFC North because we question Mitch Trubisky. And we question
Pickett will start mid-season, I think.
And that's what I'm saying. So do you think Pittsburgh is a bad team essentially then? Like, if Mitch
I don't think they're bad. They're not in my top 10 in the AFC.
They're 11. So good, though. Like, I think
that's what I mean. Like, so you can't put them ahead of anyone in the West. You can't put them ahead of Indy. You won't put them ahead of Baltimore or Cincy. And then it's kind of preference. Like, Buffalo's ahead of them. Miami could be. Like it's all a preference thing. If you think that getting Tyreek is enough to make that offense and Tua look better, then that's one thing. But
they got
Cleveland's a team that I would honestly wait and see when we get to that week 10 range. If they're at 500, I might go and put money on them to win the AFC. Just because if they are still in a position where Deshaun's going to come back and play, potentially take them on the run, and then they have all the great players that they have in Cleveland, that's a team that I think could sneakily get through.
Yeah, they're the team that'll have a lot of value when Deshaun comes back. Like, if you take it at around week 8 and it looks promising and you're like, okay, they're just missing Deshaun Watson. Like, if everything's rolling for Cleveland and you're like, all they're missing is Deshaun Watson, that could be a scary good team. So
I don't can't future bet them right now. You can't future bet them right now because you don't know that, like, What if they're 3-9? Then you're like, okay, they're out.
Yeah, or like 4-7 or something. So like you don't know till midway through the season, you don't know what position they're in. So, and I wouldn't, even with Deshaun, like if he was playing the whole year, I wouldn't consider them a contender yet. Like I gotta see what all that looks like. Like, bro, Deshaun hasn't played football in 2 years. Like, like by the time he steps on the field, it'd be like 2.5 years since Deshaun Watson has played football. So until I see what that looks like, but I think like come next year, I think Cleveland will be a contender. I don't see why they wouldn't.
So let's head over to the NFC. I think there's far less contenders than.
I think there's only 2, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that there is a third wild card team, but I think we both know Rams and Bucks, right?
Yeah.
Is that where we're going?
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Because Bucks are plus 300, Rams are plus 440. Bucks still have Tom, lots of weapons, solid defense. Rams, they just won the Super Bowl. How can you not have them as a contender at that point? But I can't put Green Bay there.
They're probably the next best team though, like because that defense is gonna be crazy good. I know they lost Devontae, and I think losing Devontae is for Green Bay is gonna hurt a lot worse than Kansas City losing Tyreek Hill, because Kansas City did a good job, like you said, patching it up. Where they drafted guys, but when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who's a great quarterback, but you've already heard him kind of gripe about like the young core. Randall Cobb is old. Like, what do you really expect him to do?
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins has been washed for 3 or 4 years now. Like, we expect him to do something. I have no expectations for Sammy Watkins to be anything more than average at best. Probably this year. Randall Cobb's hurt. Tanyan's coming off an injury. He's known to get banged up and miss some games here and there. And then like we have to see what Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watkins are. So, but that defense though, and they're well coached. I mean, this guy, 13-3 for what, the past 3 years? Like they've won 13-3. Were they 13-4 last year?
I just think the issue that I have with Green Bay is the second they run into the Rams or Bucks, like to me.
I don't know if they can beat either one of those teams, which is why I think Minnesota, bro, something tells me Minnesota's going to be that team this year. I don't know why, because I hated them last year. Everybody was telling me they were a good team. They couldn't win the close games, but they got
I liked what they did. I like the new head coach. I think they're actually in a great spot to make the playoffs this year. The third team that I have is San Fran. And I have them as a wild card only because, okay, the Lance situation is interesting. Let's say he comes in and he's good. Then this is a good defense with lots of weapons, and they're going to be fine.
It's a great team if he's good.
Even if he stinks, we've seen that Jimmy could come in and he could take them to the NFC Championship game because he did it last year. Like, as much as we love to hate on Jimmy G, like they've gone to a Super Bowl in the past couple of years. He could come in if worse comes to worse, and they could be in that NFC Championship game. So that's why I have them as like my third. They're a wild card. It's almost like the Rams in Tampa are tier 1. Tier 2 to me is San Fran, and then tier 3 is Green Bay. I would maybe throw Dallas and Philly in there. Maybe.
That the Philly team scares me because they are so good everywhere. Like,
it all depends on her.
And that's where they're scary, is because they have arguably the best offensive line in the NFL. Their defense is loaded. That secondary is going to be a no-fly zone. They're a little iffy at running back. I mean, they could do a running back by committee and be fine. They're a little iffy. I know they want Kareem Hunt, and something tells me they may end up getting Kareem.
I think they'll make the Hunt move because Sanders is going to miss time. And if you think that Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott are going to get you through, that's not the committee that you want.
Trey Sermon. They picked up Trey Sermon as well. Not like that's a crazy big addition or anything, but just saying, like, with a running back by committee. I mean, we saw when Miles Sanders got hurt last year out of those couple games, like Boston Scott had like 2 big games. Like, he did play pretty well, and Kenneth Gainwell was good catching passes out of the backfield. So as a running back by committee, they complemented each other. But it's like, if Hurts, what does Hurts need to be? Top 15? Like, is he needs to be a top 15? If Hurts is a top 12 quarterback,
and not fantasy-wise, we're talking
I'm
strictly.
Talking about, I'm not talking about from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, because that's where everyone goes. The second you start saying, "Oh, Hurts may not be the guy." Yeah, but he's great in fantasy. Okay, I don't care about fantasy. Like
fantasy is like I don't when analyzing like Hurts is going to give me probably more fantasy points than Russell Wilson, but Hurts is not better than Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But if he is a top 12 like quarterback, could Philly go to the Super Bowl? Like they have that kind of team. Like if Deshaun Watson was the quarterback for Philly and not Jalen Hurts, Philly might be the second or third favorite to come out of
it would be
barring suspension. But I'm just saying, like
they'd be heavy favorites to win the division for sure. Because right now they're split with Dallas, which I think it's actually Philly now with the moves that they made. But
yeah, they've made a bunch of moves, and then they just added Garner Johnson as well. So they're swinging not only to compete and win the division, they're swinging to win.
I think we see Philly in the divisional round for sure, and then after that, it depends on matchups. If you get Rams and Bucks, they have upset potential there. But I mean, if you get 49ers, then I would actually feel good about betting on Philly there. So
yeah, it just goes how much of a jump does Jalen Hurts make this year? Because if he does make that jump, then it's Philly's loaded, like honestly. But because I have questions at quarterback, how good is Jalen Hurts going to be? But you added AJ Brown, you got Devontae Smith. Like they have weapons everywhere. You got Dallas Goedert. Like I just don't see this team not being any type of successful. I hate saying it. Obviously, we're Cowboys fans, so I hate saying it, but you got to give credit when credit's due. Like this is a good team. So, but yeah, when it comes to contenders, like I'm just not so like the AFC is so.
It's two and a third wild card.
Yeah, like you wouldn't be surprised if Green Bay turns out to be a contender just because, but they got to prove it to you. Like they've gone 13-3 or 13-4 the past 3 years. So they are a good team, but I think that Devontae Adams is going to hurt a lot. Like, because their committee to me of wide receivers isn't nowhere near as good as how like Kansas City still has Travis Kelce, where, it was Devontae Adams and the rest of the guys in Green Bay at one point. And now you lost Valdez Scantling. Like, as much as he
Alan Lazard, wide receiver 1, is not inspiring confidence in Green Bay.
Yeah, because he probably wouldn't be any contending teams. At best, he'd be their third best wide receiver.
Yeah, he's the third best guy on a team.
Yeah, on a contending team. Like, you look at all these guys with all these weapons, like, he's probably the third best receiver. So, unless he has some breakout year and him and Aaron Rodgers are connecting, and because he is Aaron Rodgers' guy, he puts up 1,400 yards, it's tough for me to think that Green Bay is just going to win on defense and Rodgers making plays when he needs to. Like, I think there's going to be a time where somebody just explodes on that defense, and I just don't see Green Bay being able to win shootouts against these good teams. Now, they get in a shootout with freaking the Jets or something, like I think they could prevail. But yeah, in the playoffs, like when we're talking about playoffs, like I don't think they can win a shootout with the Rams. Like I don't think they can win a shootout with the Bucks because I don't know if they'll really be able to put up enough points. If it's all on Aaron Rodgers in that offense this year, I'm not sure if they'll be able to put up enough points. So if the defense has a bad game in the playoffs, I see them losing pretty handily to some of these teams. But the AFC is just so loaded. It's crazy.
So let's go and talk a couple future bets. We got defensive player of the year and offensive player of the year. So the top 5 that they have for defensive player of the year, they got Myles Garrett at plus 600, Aaron Donald plus 640, TJ Watt plus 800, Parsons plus 900, and Nick Bosa plus 1,200. Who for you do you like as defensive player of the year? It doesn't have to be one of those guys that I mentioned, but is there a guy that you like for defensive player of the year?
Michael Parsons.
Yeah. Like, okay, and this is what's going to be so dumb is that it's going to sound like we're the biggest Cowboys homers and that we're all in on Parsons. But last year, even as a rookie, he was getting love as like a defensive player of the year candidate.
If he wasn't a rookie, he would have won it.
Yeah.
I feel like they just didn't want to give it to a rookie. Like, I mean, TJ Watt earned it. Don't get me wrong. Like, he did earn it. But I just feel like if Michael Parsons was a second-year player, he would have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. And so that's what I think.
Here's the thing that I'm struggling with these other guys. So Garrett, I think the team's going to stink early on for sure, if not altogether. Because I don't know how many games Jacoby wins you. And if he doesn't win you a lot, then you probably don't bring back Watson and you just say, screw it, we'll play for next year. Donald is a maybe for me. Like I feel like you almost get voter fatigue with Aaron Donald. And
his problem, I think, is it's not. We know he's the best defensive player in football, but his numbers don't always show it. Like you have to when you're watching Aaron Donald, I feel like sometimes
you're like, oh my god, but then he's got one
you just
sack.
have to know what you're watching to understand that, like, him being on the field getting triple teamed opens up everything else for everybody else because he's that dominant. So it's like he doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but then he also makes those big plays when need to, like in the Super Bowl. Like because of those two big plays he made, getting to Joe Burrow and getting those sacks is like why they won the Super Bowl. And so, like, yeah, statistically, he's not going to be the best defensive player, but we all know, like, to me, Aaron Donald, I don't even think it's close. Like, Aaron Donald might be the best player in football, regardless of position, but I just don't have him winning Defensive Player of the Year because I don't think he's going to wow you on the stat sheet, which is okay. I don't think he cares either. Like, he doesn't care.
No, not anymore. I think he's playing for another ring, and that's kind of, like, we already know that he's going to be a Hall of Famer by the time he's done, and, like, he's such a great
he knows how good he is. Like he's not playing for hardware, and he doesn't care about. I don't think he ever did, but I don't think he cares about stats. Like he knows his impact on the field with the Los Angeles Rams. Like I don't think it's about stats for him. Like, oh, I could have had 3 sacks this game. Like no, I didn't have a sack, but everybody else on my defensive line got
9 hurried passes because I just absolutely
or a couple tackle for losses. Like he just but I just statistically I don't see him doing enough on the stat sheet because voters don't always know what they're watching. Like they don't. And plus it's like, I don't know. I don't think Aaron Donald will do it. I think Michael Parsons, like,
yeah, I agree on the Parsons.
He was a monster last year. He's the expectations he's going to be a monster this year. And everybody can say we're being Cowboys homers, but this is coming from everybody around the league is amazed at how good Michael Parsons is. Obviously, Jerry Jones is telling us how much better he is this year. He's supposed to, but I expect it. But the whole league is amazed by how good Michael Parsons is. So
they think he's great.
I think a lot of people would take him to win Defensive Player of the Year, especially I don't think Watt repeats. Like NFL is not necessarily a repeat award, like a back-to-back award.
The voter fatigue thing with him again. And I don't think that Bosa is going to do enough, either Bosa, to be honest. Well, the one Bosa is going to get votes stolen from him, probably from Mac and everybody else on his team. And Nick, I'm not in on him as Defensive Player of the Year yet.
That's such a pass rusher award. Like, you know how we say MVP is a quarterback award? Like, Defensive Player of the Year is a very, like, it's a pass rushing award. Like, look at all the favorites. They're all pass rushers. They're all defensive ends. Like, the first 5 guys are all defensive ends getting to the quarterback. So it's like, who would you pick? Who would be your DB? Who would be your DB that could win Defensive Player of the Year?
I honestly don't even know.
I'd go with Derwin James.
Yeah.
If I had to pick a DB to win it, I think I'd go with Derwin James. I think he'll be fully healthy.
You could go Ramsey if you want as well, just because he shuts guys down.
Yeah, but statistically, Ramsey also doesn't. He's another guy who we know how great he is. We know it's not even a conversation of him being the best corner. His don't show up on the stat sheet either. He takes away a whole side of the field. So
he doesn't get thrown at. He's just how Revis was back in the day, where it's like they just don't throw that way because they know.
Yeah, like he just locks down a whole side of the field. So statistically, he's probably not going to lead the league in interceptions or do something that you need a DB to do to win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, look at Diggs. Like, Diggs led the league in interceptions, and still, I don't even think he was top 3 in voting, for Defensive Player of the Year. Now, granted, he did give up a lot of yards, but I'm just saying, like, a DB leads the league with double-digit interceptions, and he's not even top 3, just goes to kind of tell you, like, it's a pass rushing award. Like, it's as biased with Defensive Player of the Year as it is with MVP. Like, MVP should just be best quarterback award.
Yeah. Like, so when we go to Offensive Player of the Year, this one has basically become the best not quarterback. Like the best skill position guy. So 2 favorites are Kupp and JT at plus 900. Then you got Derrick Henry and Debo at plus 1200. And then Devontae Adams at plus 1400 are the 5 favorites. Now, I have 2 guys in mind. One of them's JT, just because I think if the Colts get to the playoffs, they win the division. He's a big reason why. Could lead the league in rushing and TDs, like, especially given that a lot of the other great running backs are starting to have some injury issues. So I think JT is a good one. But the other one, it's a team that we talked about earlier, and it's one that I've already put money on, and it's Justin Jefferson.
I knew that's where you were going.
at plus 1,600. And I absolutely love it because I think Minnesota makes the playoffs. I actually think Jefferson leads the league in targets, in yards, and as long as he gets the touchdowns up there. Like if Justin Jefferson gets 12 to 15 touchdowns this year, like to me, he's offensive player of the year because he only had 10 last year. And a big reason why is because Kirk loves Thielen, and Thielen also had 10 last year, despite having what you would call like a subpar year for him. So that's where I'm going with it, but I'm all in on Jefferson. I've already put money on it, and I think that he's a great value play here.
It's crazy because I was going to say Justin Jefferson. Like I was out for real because they got an offensive-minded head coach. He's talked about like, throughout camp, like how this offense seems like it's going to be explosive. I think, the head coach and Kirk Cousins are on the same page. We know Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. Just look at the numbers. Like, as much as people hate on him, like if you go look at his numbers, they scream good quarterback. Yeah. They don't scream great, but in some categories, he's like, man, I didn't even realize he was that good. Like he becomes underrated at a point because he's
the
never
media perception is that he can't get it done.
Yeah, like he's never had real success. So but he's almost to the point where if you look at his numbers, he's starting to become underrated and underappreciated for really how good he is. But I like Justin Jefferson. Another CeeDee Lamb. Like, I'm not saying he wins it, but CeeDee Lamb could have a big year. Like, we have a bunch of plug and play wide receivers outside of CeeDee Lamb. We have Michael Gallup, but he's hurt, so we don't know how long it's going to take him to get his legs going. Like, we expect to feed Zeke a lot. That's what's just coming out of everywhere out of Dallas is like we go as Zeke goes. But, if CeeDee Lamb and Dak have that connection, we know like Dak puts up numbers. Like at the end of the day, you can hate on the Cowboys of winning and losing, but offensively they put up numbers. Dak has thrown for almost 5,000 yards twice. He threw for 4,900, 2 years ago? Prior to him breaking his ankle. He was on pace to throw for 5,000 yards. The year he broke his ankle, he was on pace to throw for 5,000 yards and have 3,000-yard receivers in Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. They all were on pace to have 1,000 yards. So if CD puts up 1,500 yards and 12 TDs, like, is he not in the conversation?
He's 59-1 odds right now. I don't think that he's out of the conversation at all because, like, to go back to the wide receiver point just in general, Cooper Kupp, I think the big reason why he had all the production that he had is that when Robert Woods went down and they didn't bring in OBJ forever, like until very late in the year, Kupp was like the only guy there. And Lamb's kind of hovering around the one guy that you feel comfortable with. Like Tolbert will get some, Schultz will get some, Gallup will get some, but like once you get past that, like also how much are those guys really going to get in this offense? Yeah. And if Dak's throwing for 4,500 yards, let's say this year, and that might even be like underrating him a bit, like he might be closer to 47, 48. Lamb has to be a big chunk of that.
Like he probably gets 14, 15 of that. Like,
yeah. Like the only thing that concerns me is that I just named like 4 guys. And when I think about Minnesota, I think about 2 guys that are really getting receptions and targets and all that stuff. Like it basically is Thielen and Jefferson. Irv Smith will get a little bit, but the majority of it's going to go to Jefferson, and that's why I have him there. Now, as far as yours is a long shot, I like the long shot odds on it. Like, I would sprinkle a little bit of money on it because why not? Like, if you hit on it, that's amazing, and that's a great play. But, yeah, I do think, like, as I said, I'm all in on Jefferson. I think Minnesota's
I'm with you on Jefferson, though. Like, I think...
Like Lamb, as you said, this is more so like a long shot, like, if you're picking somebody else. Like, because the thing is, they start going through all the quarterbacks and stuff, and I'm like, I find it hard to believe that like he's in the same category as like George Kittle has better odds than CeeDee Lamb, and I just don't see a scenario where that's even possible. Like I really don't.
I don't see where they think George Kittle will get the usage to have higher.
I'll give you one other one. Travis Kelce, 39-1.
Now he could, because he's gonna be the guy in Kansas City. Like he is the guy now.
He may legitimately get 15 or 16 touchdowns this year to go along with 1,500 yards because
And he's done
Tyree
it before. He's done 1,500 yards before. What? 2 years ago, he was second in receiving
and
yards.
if Kansas City does as well as we say that you say that they do, and they win the division, they're the 1 or 2 seed in the AFC. How are you not going to give it to Kelsey at that point if he has those sorts of numbers?
You would imagine if they do, Kelsey does have those kind of numbers, like 1,400 yards, 12, 13 touchdowns, like could be second or third in receiving. I mean, the way the receiving numbers are going up, 1,400 yards, you're probably 10th in receiving, like, which is crazy. Because, like, if you look at it last year, which is why just real quick, I always get into the whole just getting 1,000, like barely over 1,000 yards, like it's starting to become
great
an
anymore.
Feature because 27 guys got over 1,000 yards last year. So we're seeing the receiving yard number go up. So when you're just getting over 1,000, like you're 25th. Darnell Mooney got over 1,000.
To me, it's 1,200 now. To me, 1,200 is the mark because if you think about the schedule, that's averaging out to 70 yards a week.
Yeah, and you added an extra game, which is probably why we have 27,000 yard guys. But like when I look at it, like if you have 1,200 yards, you might be 13th or 14th in receiving yards. Like, so that's why I say just getting over 1,000, it's starting to become an overrated feature because pretty much everybody has 1,000-yard guy on their roster. We're talking about 27 receivers had over 1,000 yards. We're talking about Darnell Mooney. Well, I think he's good. He's not great or anything, but he had over 1,000 yards. You pretty much have a guy that you can pinpoint on almost every team that you think can get 1,000 yards easily. Like, you'd almost pick one receiver from every team and be like, he's 1,000 yards. He could get 1,000 yards. So that's why I think you might have 30, 32 people get over 1,000 yards this year.
Okay.
Like the number has been going up.
So let's cap it off with NFL MVP. Now, for me this year, I don't see a long shot guy here past the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like full disclosure, when I went through and I was looking at names, like even Burrow was 6, and I'm like, I just don't see a scenario where Burrow's league MVP this year. But Josh Allen plus 620, Mahomes plus 760, Brady plus 800, Herbert plus 880, and Aaron Rodgers plus 1,000. To me, it's one of those 5 guys, and I don't see another quarterback coming from out of nowhere to win it because Allen, we already talked about the fact that Buffalo's expectations, Mahomes could every year, just like Brady and Rodgers were the favorites last year. And then Herbert, because of the moves that the Chargers made and how much the league especially loves Justin Herbert, they're looking for him to get an MVP at some point. So outside of that top 5, I don't have anybody else. Do you think that it's within that top 5 as well?
Yeah, I mean,
Because we throw out names like Dak and Stafford, and it's like it's fun to talk about. It was like Kyler Murray for me last year. I threw out Kyler, and I was like, man, he was an MVP for like 8 weeks, but like he can't do it over 17 games.
Through the first 10 weeks, though, you looked dead on. Like it was possible. I do think it's gonna be one of those 5 guys, but based on expectation, I would think Russell Wilson probably will be in that conversation too. I'm not sold on Denver. Yeah. But everybody is basically saying they think that Russell Wilson was the missing piece. They're going to have a good defense. Think they're going to have a really good offense. And Russell Wilson is going to be throwing the ball to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and that tight end. So I think he would be maybe the guy I'd say an outside shot, but I think it's Justin Herbert. Like that's who I think wins MVP. He's benefited from not making the playoffs. So now that he's put up the numbers and hasn't made the playoffs the past 2 years. So if they could go 11-6, maybe second in the division, maybe win the division. But if they could go 11-6, they make the playoffs and Herbert puts up 4,800 yards, almost 40 touchdowns, which is very possible. That's probably the stat line that they expect. I think Justin Herbert could win it. And I'm never always sold on the favorite when all the money's on Josh Allen right now winning it. Not saying that he can't, not saying that he won't. He's earned the right, especially with putting up the numbers. And we know he's going to run. He runs the ball a lot. He pretty much is the team's leading rusher, throws the ball a lot. I just think with everybody being so high on him, I think it's somebody like Herbert. Like, I think Herbert gets it. Like you said, I think they want Herbert to win an MVP too. He's kind of become like, he's like the hero in the NFL. Like, people love him. Like, everybody loves Justin Herbert. So he's just become that likable guy. And then he's got the sympathy factor that he hasn't made the playoffs and this and that. So I think 11-6 and him putting up the numbers that we expect him to put up is good enough for him to win MVP, especially because part of that narrative is that he carried the Chargers to the playoffs. Like, they haven't made the playoffs for 2 years, and now he made it.
To be honest, it might even be top 4 because I think everyone thinks Aaron Rodgers is a dick, and I don't think they're going to give him a 3 in a row.
Oh, no. Like
here's the scenario where it happens, and it's the only reason why I kept him in there. Green Bay gets the 1 seed. The offense looks good. Defense, obviously, as well. They go like 13-4, and Rodgers looks great throughout the year.
I'm with you.
And then they go, oh, Devontae. Like, look at Rodgers' weapons, and he did this, and like, there will be those people that spitefully say, screw this guy, I'm not giving him MVP again, and that's fair enough. But if they are the 1 seed, I think that's the only scenario. If they're the 2, like if he's behind Brady, they're just going to give it to Brady. If he's the 1, though, then you have to have the conversation of like, okay, but Josh Allen did it with Stephon Diggs. Patrick Mahomes did it with Kelsey, Juju. Brady did it with Evans and Godwin. Herbert did it with Williams and Allen. Rodgers did it with Allen Lazard. And then you'd be like, oh.
That's realistic. Like, that is realistic. But like you said, like, the whole voters fatigue thing, and then, this past, year with Aaron Rodgers and his offseason and him coming out and speaking on – I think he's talked himself into being hated. And he's talked a little too much.
And that's what I think kills him. Like, if he doesn't do that Joe Rogan show, I think he is 100% like, this probably has blown over at this point. And we're just like, whatever. Vaccination stuff was dumb, but he's back-to-back MVP. But now he went on there and he slammed the NFL and he slammed everybody. And it's like,
and he's telling us like people are hating him. He's telling us he's played games on Percocets and he's taking psychedelic drugs to deal with, coming into finding himself. So I just think with Aaron Rodgers, I just think he's talked himself out of being a candidate. But like you said, if they are 13-4, he's throwing for like 4,500 yards. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions. So he got like 36, 37 touchdowns, 6, 7 interceptions. And like you said, they can say, the narrative, look who he did it with. Like, they won, their defense was great, but look who he did it with. He put up those numbers throwing to freaking Allen Lazard. Like, that's what, that's what the narrative is going to be. But it's tough for me to see Aaron Rodgers win 3 in a row. Like,
I know. And that's why, to me,
it's insane for him to win 3 in a row. Like, I don't see them wanting him to do that.
The only scenario.
Conversation. It just puts him in a different stratosphere in a sense. Like, I think the GOAT conversation is over with quarterback because of Brady and he's got 7 Super Bowls. Like, I think that's over, but that puts him in a different stratosphere of he won 3 in a row, and that'll be his 5th MVP, and he's won 3 in a row. Like, this, I know it's an individual award, and you could talk about his playoff lack of success or whatever in his 1 Super Bowl, but 1 Super Bowl and 5 MVPs with having a 3-peat of MVP, like,
in the quarterback era too, like the QB era.
He's older. That puts you in a different conversation of history. Like, probably, I don't think any quarterback has won 3 in a row.
You could just argue him being the all-time quarterback talent. Like, not
like he would now really, he might hold over that conversation. Like, he's in that conversation, but 3 in a row. I think Aaron Rodgers, I think he has to have like unreal. Like, I think he's got to throw for like 52, 5,300, 45, 46 touchdowns, probably close to that 50 mark. Like, I think he's going to have to definitively show us that he is the best quarterback.
And that there is no way that you cannot vote for him.
Yeah. And like that's what he's put himself into. He has to put himself where your bias is showing if you don't vote for me. But I think he has to put up like some unrealistic expectations on him, numbers. Like, I think that 5,200 yards and close to 50 touchdowns, like you said, he has to definitively make you like you're a hater if you don't vote for Aaron Rodgers, because he's really not liked right now. And we can't say that personal feelings don't get factored into, some in these personal narratives or personal agendas. Like, we can't say these voters don't have feelings and don't use their feelings when voting, even though they're probably not supposed to, but they still do. We're humans at the end of the day.
So, Mo, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Tell the folks where they can find your work at home.
You can follow me at Up in Flames Pod on Instagram, at Mo_Cheese15 on Twitter. Also, Mo_cheese15 on TikTok. I'm going to be on Jeff's show tomorrow night with the college football reaction. I'm going to do a show talking some college football. Then we got Friday Night Lights on Off the Ball Network every Friday. Myself and Walker will be doing that show and try to have guests and stuff like that, but kind of getting you ready on the betting side and just basically a preview of the Saturday slate as well. And usually on Fridays, if there's a game worth talking about on Thursday, we'll also talk about that. So, yeah, a lot going on. It's football season, bro. I feel like I'm busy from here on out, and I love it. I've missed it. I've missed just doing shows all the time. So football season is a busy one. Also, while we're talking about it, CU Sunday is back on Saturday. This coming Saturday, I think at 11 a.m. or 12 p.m. Eastern. Got to get with Couch Coach. But CU Sunday is back. The Off the Ball Network weekly show getting you ready for your Sunday slate. The NFL is back. So definitely look forward to that one and Overreaction Monday. Those are our two premier shows at the network that everybody loves being a part of. We always get a good cast going every Saturday. And I'll probably be hosting it more often than not this year. Or it'll be a lot of us hosting it because, Couch Coach took on some gigs and be a little bit busy on Saturdays. But we won't let them down, and it debuts Saturday. So also tune into that.
As I said, appreciate you coming on the show and appreciate everyone who tuned in today on this holiday Monday. Enjoy your holiday Monday out there, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning for the competitive.